Ho ho ho, Merry Christmas and welcome to the Black Ponder. I'm Neil Trotter and today we're going to get into the Christmas spirit by talking about some anarchism, political philosophy. That's a great way to get into the Christmas spirit, right? No, you don't think so? I think it is, and we are doing it via this text right here. It's actually a speech. It's by Noam Chomsky, and it is What is Anarchism? And he gave the speech in November 18th, 2013. And, I'm just dressed up for the Christmas spirit. Really, it's just, it's very cold in here. So, got a scarf. I just happen to have Christmas. I like, this is fun to get into the holiday spirit. But also, it's very warm, because it's very cold here. So, take care of two birds with one stone, right? Anyway, yeah, so we're talking about anarchism today, and we're going to be doing it via very famous, or in some people's opinion, infamous, Noam Chomsky. He's really popular in the field of political philosophy, particularly anarchism, but he's also popular in other fields of philosophy as well. And I just printed here a transcript of his speech, and I think it was really good because oftentimes, we try to struggle with defining what a philosophical field of thought is, like anarchism, or, take your pick. What is this philosophy? What's that philosophy? What is that? What exactly is anarchism? Right? And I often ask people that I know personally who are anarchists, and I get a diverse array of responses. Right? And then you got the stereotypical view of an anarchist, which is some guy dressed in all black. He's probably got a black mask, a white dude, right? He's got the club, and he's smashing stuff. He's breaking windows. He's popping tires, and he's got a spray can, and he sprays the circle with the A, and that's like what an anarchist is, right? Maybe he's a computer hacker, that kind of thing, right? But we are actually gonna let's talk in depth about, let's do some critical thinking, some critical discussion, some philosophical analysis as to what really is philosophy. And that's why I like this speech. So we're gonna get started here, and I'm going to just start reading from this transcript. This is a widely available, easy to access speech on YouTube, or just type in "What is Anarchism?" Chomsky, and you can find it yourself. Let me start on the fifth paragraph here, and it is literally like the definition. But before I read, let me first say, what he talks about how, it's always a struggle to define a philosophical point of view or philosophical school of thought, and it's an array of responses that you get in any type of philosophy, and it's because, these things are complex, they're complicated, there are a lot of interwoven points of views, mechanisms, attributes, a lot of moving parts with, and when we're talking about politics, social economics, right, that's some complicated things. So, it's not too surprising, right, that we have these multiple definitions and, varied ideas about what anarchism is. But I begin with the fifth paragraph here. Let me read it to you. Anarchism is a tendency in human development that seeks to identify structures of hierarchy, domination, authority, and others that constrain human development. And then it seeks to subject them to a very reasonable challenge. Justify yourself. Demonstrate that you're legitimate, and maybe in some special circumstances or conceivably in principle. And if you can't meet the challenge, which is the usual case, the structure should be dismantled. Not just dismantled, but reconstructed from below. I thought that's a great definition of anarchism. It's not the complete definition, but it's a good starting point, right? And it kind of counters what I just described, that stereotype of the guy with the mask and the black hoodie, spray painting the circle with the A. No, it's it's critical analysis of social economic structures, okay? And seeing, are these structures legitimate? Are they working? What's that really? That's a form of philosophy, is it not? And that's what sparked my interest. I'm like, oh, okay, Chomsky's taking a philosophical approach. He's looking at governments, state powers, institutions of power, and you're looking at these things and you're saying, okay, you are saying that you're doing this, but are you doing this? Police, for example, are they creating safety? Is that what they're doing? Prisons, right? Do prisons actually provide justice? Is that actually what they're doing? Government. Does government actually provide society with the means to seek liberty and the pursuit of happiness? Overall, all the people, is that what government is doing? And if the answer is no, then we need to take a step back, or even further, dismantle the structure and reconstruct. And I think that's pretty reasonable. That's a pretty reasonable thing to do. It's not like super radical, I don't think. And let me skip to that 8th paragraph here to further that sentiment. In part, all of this sounds like truism. So why should anyone defend illegitimate structures? No reason, of course, and I think that perception is correct. It really is truism, I think. Anarchism basically ought to be called truism. But I skipped down the line. This particular truism belongs to an interesting category of principles. Principles that are not only universal, but doubly universal. They're universal in that they're almost universally accepted, and universal in that they're almost universally rejected in practice. There are many of these. Like we were saying, like if a structure is illegitimate, if there's a power structure and it's saying, oh, I'm doing this, but that's not what it's actually doing, okay, then they should be called out on it. Makes sense. But, it makes sense, right? But do we actually do those things? Is that, the things that are very self-evident or like very obvious, do we actually follow through? All right, this is where he's getting at. For example, the general principle that we should apply to ourselves the same standards we do to others, if not harsher ones, few would object. Few would practice it. Do unto others as you would do unto yourself. Everybody, you ask an average person, like, you think that's a good idea? And almost everybody will say, yeah, that's kind of a good idea. It's a good idea. No one else should be subjected to harsher circumstances and situations than me if we're starting from a clean slate. But is that, but who do you know who actually practiced that? It's challenging to find a person that actually practices that. And I skip down the line. This truism is the same. The truism that we should challenge coercive institutions of all kinds, demand that they justify themselves, dismantle and reconstruct them if they do not. Easy to say, but not so easy to act on in practice. We like to just shove anarchism in this stereotypical box. But really, anarchism is asking really intelligent philosophical questions and really important critiques about society. You ask anybody, prisons, they're pretty horrible places for people to be in, right? Most people will say, oh yeah, prisons, they're pretty bad. They're basically torture chambers. Very few people would disagree with that. But, most people would say, well, that's what we got. That's what we can have. And, they would further say, well, they're not perfect institute. I mean, it's not perfect, but, in fact, they're not even close to perfect. They're actually pretty horrible institutions, but that's what we got. And, take your pick, same thing with government. This is what anarchism, the government that we have today. What government are we talking about, you ask? You just take your pick. I live in the United States of America, American government. But whatever country, you look at the government of most every country and you're like, well, actually that system doesn't really work all too well. Right? Doesn't really work all too well. But that's what we got. That's what we got to work with. And does it give us the results that are necessary? No, but that's what we got to work with. So, but anarchism is challenging that acceptance of status quo. That like, look, they're saying they should be doing this, but they're not doing it. So rather than just accepting it, right, we should reconstruct. We should dismantle and reconstruct, which makes sense. Right? But who is willing to do that? Right? And that's anarchism is calling that to the forefront. And I skip a sentence here. Chomsky is quoting this anarchist activist here. His name is Rudolf Rocker. This is Rocker's quote, but Chomsky is quoting it. Anarchism seeks to free labor from economic exploitation and to free society from ecclesiastical or political guardianship. And by doing that, opening the way to an alliance of free groups of men and women based on cooperative labor and planned administration of things in the interests of community. So now we got more further definition. And really what I'm trying to do is I'm using this speech to give a definition of anarchism that isn't subject to the mainstream stereotype of anarchism. I think this speech does a great job doing that. And what I was saying, I don't think that's too controversial. I don't really see that. Some might label this radical, but really what's radical about it? So when we talk about, he says ecclesiastical or political guardianship. And now he's going to focus, Chomsky's going to kind of shift the focus to ecclesiastical guardianship. And he quotes this very popular phrase in anarchist thought, no God, no master. So here I am on the 13th paragraph. This is the third sentence. And Chomsky wants to make clear here. No God, quote, in the terms that I just quoted from Rocker, opposition to ecclesiastical guardianship, individual beliefs are a different matter. Okay, so there's a difference between, this idea of ecclesiastical guardianship and, ecclesiastical beliefs. Okay, don't get it twisted. Okay, I'll skip a sentence. But the phrase no master is different. That refers not to individual belief, but to a social relation. A relation of subordination and domination. A relation that anarchism, if taken seriously, seeks to dismantle and rebuild from below, unless it can somehow meet the harsh burden of establishing its legitimacy. Okay? Makes sense, right? So the other stereotype is anarchists is all about, atheism and rejection of religion. And, Chomsky directs you to anarchist philosophy that stems from Catholicism and other religious philosophies. So it's not about anti-religion. It's about religion being used as a kind of guardianship, a kind of dominant structure, a form of dominance to subordinate the people, right? And this kind of subordination is negative because it doesn't reflect what the institution is promoting. You actually look at the beliefs and the principles of these religions, and then you look at how they dominate society. And does that domination reflect those beliefs and principles? No. And this is what anarchism is talking about. It's like what he's saying, unless it could somehow meet the harsh burden of establishing its legitimacy. Like, show me that the domination of these religious institutions is reflecting the principles and beliefs of that religious institution. Is that what's going on? Or is what's really going on is just the control of social economic power? Is that not what's going on? Right? And what does that have to do with the tenets, the beliefs, the principles of these religions? So we're thinking deeply about, like, okay, what do these institutions of power doing? What are they saying they're doing, and what are they actually doing? And are they actually benefiting society in general? The 15th paragraph, anarchism, of course, is famously opposed to the state, while at the same time advocating, quote, planned administration of things in the interests of community. And that's Rocker's quote again. And beyond that, border federations of self-governing communities at workplaces. So, he's also including the well-known principle of anarchism, that's anti-state power. Because the argument is state power doesn't really cater to the needs of community. And that's it. That's all. That's all I wanted to share. I guess for speeches, it's not like super short, but it is a speech. So it's not like my typical 600, 700 page text right, that I share on this channel, but it has a lot of philosophy, and I just wanted to share that. I just want to add to the discussion of anarchism as a political philosophy, and kind of take away from the superficial, limited kind of thinking of that field of thought, and add to the legitimacy of it. Feel free to add to the discussion via the comment section below. That's cool. Just a little Christmas video for you. When we're talking about anarchism, because Christmas spirit, anarchism. But maybe you don't celebrate Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, happy holidays, or maybe you don't even celebrate any holidays. I ain't tripping. But thanks for watching. This is the Black Ponder. Tune in next time for more philosophical thought.